Hi. Good morning. Thank you so much. I am so honored to be here today speaking to you. I just love what Girls Inc. is doing all over the country, which is why I originally connected with Renee. Can you all hear me okay? Okay. Which is why I originally connected with Renee. When she asked me to speak to you about what it was like for me to grow up on Long Island, a few things first came to mind right away. First of all, I felt safe. Levittown, where I grew up, had this great sense of community. I remember our annual summer block parties and dancing the night away in front of the DJ booth. I spent a lot of time outside playing kickball with my neighborhood friends during the summer and building snowmen and igloos on my front lawn in the winter. My sisters and I used to love to go to the orchards for apple picking and hay rides. When I got to high school, I kept busy as a cheerleader and being in all the plays. And because I was old enough to babysit, I spent every penny I earned at the Sunrise Mall at H&M, my favorite store. Although that was until I got a job working at Dortoni's, my local bakery. I must have gained 12 pounds that year and was legitimately very sad when their clothes stopped fitting me for a while. Like every Long Island girl, my friends and I would ride our bikes to Jones Beach. We'd sit outside the theater and listen to the music on the grassy area when we couldn't afford to buy a ticket. And I'll never forget my heart being broken for the very first time by my first real high school boyfriend. I can remember my world feeling like it was ending and I would never get through it. Time really does give us a little perspective. But it's funny when you look back and you think of those moments where you are sure you wouldn't survive. But we do, don't we? Back in high school, if you knew me, you probably would have grouped me in with the popular kids. I was a cheerleader, like I said, so I socialized with the guys on the football team. I had a lot of really good friends. I had a cute boyfriend. I was in the drama club, so I was in all the plays, and I made friends with all the theater kids and the choir members. When I graduated, my peers voted me most fun to be with in the yearbook. So from the outside looking in, my teenage years seemed amazing. Everyone thought I was confident and happy. But from the inside looking out, I was extremely insecure. My home life was chaotic. My dad was an alcoholic, and every day was unpredictable. I didn't know if he would be drunk when I got home from school, or if he would be sober when he picked me up after rehearsal. You know, of course, as adults, we know not to drink and drive, and we know not to get into the car with someone who's been drinking. But I was just a kid. He was my dad. I assumed I just had to listen to him. I didn't know I had a choice. But I was always scared. Scared that we would get into an accident, scared that my dad would die from this disease, scared that my mom would run out on us because of it. The most persistent feeling from my childhood was the feeling of living in fear. Because of my dad's alcoholism, my parents just couldn't give me the amount of love that I needed. So I found myself looking for it in other places. My boyfriend, my friends, my sisters, my teachers, counselors, you name it, whoever would give it to me. I sought approval from everyone around me. And I grew up believing that I needed to be liked by everyone. So yes, I got most fun to be with in the yearbook, and that was amazing. But it didn't come naturally. I went against my own desires, saying yes to everything and everyone, because I needed love. And I would go against my own desires when most of the time, what I most often wanted was to say no. And that included drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, trying pot, giving into pressure from boys. But also, because I was so focused on pleasing everyone, I was easily taken advantage of. For example, I would often pay for people when I couldn't afford it. Why? Because I needed love, and I thought the way to get it was by gaining everyone's approval. I was so wrong, but we'll come back to that. So I did 2 years of college in Long Island, and then I finished my degree in New York City, and that's where I really discovered my tribe. You know, I thought I was finally free from living under the shadow of my family's secrets. Unlike high school in my small town, no one knew me in my college classes, so I didn't have to live in fear of people finding out about my dad. I had more freedom, independence. You know, physically it was only 30 miles away, but emotionally it was on the other side of the world. Finally, it would be a fresh start. My best friend Katie and I used to stay up till all hours in the morning studying at our local diner. We'd order cheese fries and gravy and drink loads of coffee. Actually, it wasn't until I started working at the Plainview Diner and had to say the word coffee multiple times a day that I finally became aware of my Long Island accent. Would you like some coffee? Coffee. 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 Ugh. We all know that Long Island diners are more frequented than our kitchens. So after work, to blow off some steam, we would all go dancing at Spit. Does anybody remember Spit? Ah, yes! It was also called Uncle Sam's, and it was right next door to the Tri-County Flea Market in Levittown. I would actually have my mom drop me off down the street because I would have been so embarrassed if anyone saw me getting out of her car. But once inside, I felt like $1 million dancing to Madonna, Gloria Gaynor, and everything Donna Summer. Thursday night, actually, was ladies' night, and women got in free at every bar. It might still be that way today. My friends and I would take the Long Island Railroad into Manhattan. We'd be sipping on our wine coolers out of brown paper bags. Classy. But it was such a party on the way in. Everyone was so loud and obnoxious. And we would take the cab down to the East Village, and we'd go bar hopping and meet boys. It was always about the boys. It wasn't a good night unless one of us got smoochies, as we like to call it. And we never dressed for New York weather. Choosing fashion over function, we would always be freezing to death all the time. And we always missed that last train back to Long Island. And we'd be stranded in Manhattan until the morning commute. Perhaps you saw us. It was quite a scene. We would be exiting the train, half asleep, makeup smeared, and we'd be just looking down to avoid all the judgmental faces of those productive members of society on their way to work. Now that I commute, I see these young girls heading in, and I just want to give them a hug and tell them to wear sensible shoes. You know, looking back, I really do have some wonderful memories. Ice skating in Rockefeller Center, going to see concerts at MSG, bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches. I never felt lonely in New York. You know, all those experiences shaped who I was and who I became. And in some ways, Manhattan was a fresh start, and in some ways it wasn't. As much fun as I had, I wasn't complete. At the age of 19, I learned that I developed psoriasis. Suddenly, I was covered in those red, scaly spots, and they were extremely itchy and humiliating. My mind was consumed with thoughts like, who will date me now? Will I ever feel comfortable in my own body again? Will people judge me and think I'm contagious? Will I always feel worthless? The shame was just too overwhelming. You know, I spent my teenage years hiding my father's drinking problem, and now I was going to spend my 20s hiding my skin. I couldn't go on. Unlike my first heartbreak or growing out of my H&M clothes, my 19-year-old self was convinced this would kill her. But it didn't, because these things never really kill us, right? We thrive and we survive. And I did what every strong woman would do. And you know, here in Long Island, we raise our women strong. I adapted to my new normal. I wore long sleeve shirts when my skin was irritated. And I learned different techniques to stave off flare-ups. Eventually, I made dietary and lifestyle changes that got my psoriasis under control. But the real breakthrough didn't come till about 6 years ago, when I was well into my 30s. I said that at the start of this, that as a kid, I craved and really depended on love. Well, I still seek love today. We all need love. But what I've learned is that that love that we need, it has to come from within. I can give it to myself. I don't have to seek it from others. And that's not to say that it's not important to have the love of others and to give love to others, but there's a big difference between needing it and wanting it, and I didn't know that when I was younger. This idea of self-love is more than enough to fill the void of needing. And the best part is, it's always there. So many of us form dependencies on others, and then we're left devastated when they leave our lives for some reason. And I've been there. I'm guilty of it too. I've lost a friend, I've gone through breakups where I'm left with this great sense of abandonment and dread. But while others come in and out of my life, I can't leave me. I can't escape myself. If I'm feeling down one day and I need an extra dose of love, self-love is the way to provide it. And there was something really amazing and freeing about this when I really started to grasp the idea. Self-love is such an interesting concept because it's so easy to define, but it can be interpreted in so many different ways. So in simplest of terms, self-love means loving yourself. And maybe the verbiage throws people off. People hear self-love and they go running for the hills. I know, it's very hippy-dippy, very woo-woo. I get it, I'm from New York. I have dealt with a lot of cynicism and I know all the stereotypes. So how about instead of self-love, I use the word empowerment. Finding your power and your voice, living your truth, being comfortable in your skin. Self-love is something we grow to achieve. Real self-love is when you unconditionally love yourself every minute of every day, the good, the bad, and the ugly. How does it serve us to talk negatively to ourselves and to beat ourselves up? Why do we even engage in negative self-talk? Why aren't we more loving and kind to ourselves? How would you feel if your boss said that report you were killing yourself over needed some work? Or if your kid tells you that dinner was gross after slaving over it. It's enough that others cut us down, but so often we walk away and we put ourselves down as well. That negative self-talk creeps in. I'm not good enough. I could have done better. So those are the moments that we need to love ourselves the most. And that's where empowerment comes in, to put an end to all of that. Okay, so now that we know what self-love means, what does it look like? And this is the part where I think people get really confused because there's just so many ways to love ourselves. It can be anything from spending time alone, not necessarily getting distracted, playing words with friends or watching reruns of This Is Us, but just really doing what brings you joy. Trusting that things are going to work out even when you're full of doubt. Doing what lights you up inside, even when you're full of fear. Saying no when you really don't want to do something. Being grateful for all that's in our lives. Buying yourself flowers instead of waiting for someone else to do it. Taking time to de-stress when you know you need it. Loving your body when it makes you feel less than. That's a hard one. Finding your voice, as scary as that may be, and sticking up for yourself, standing up for yourself. If I loved myself when I was younger, I would not have kept going back to the boys who treated me poorly. I wouldn't have smoked cigarettes or drank alcohol. I wouldn't have been so scared to spend some time alone, getting to know myself. I would have felt more confident. I would have taken more risks. And maybe I would have worn sensible shoes when I went out for ladies' night. I'm just one girl from Long Island. Like all of you, I'm here striving to make a difference and spread positivity. And I'm starting here because this is my home. When I came to terms with this idea of self-love, it was a major breakthrough for me. You see, changing my feelings towards myself and my psoriasis actually changed the appearance of my disease. I was in a whole different mindset now. I put myself first. I ate right, I exercised. I stayed positive. And after years of medications and prescription creams that were only moderately effective, I healed myself of my condition. And from a very practical standpoint, self-love strengthens our immune system. And it increases our self-esteem, and it makes you feel happier and healthier, which is what we all strive for, right? I know that by you being here, you must believe in this place too. Long Island raised us and shaped us, and I'm proud of that. We raise our girls strong, smart, and bold, which is the stated mission of Girls Inc. This is why their work so aligns in this place. They want our girls to have the best possible experience growing up here. They want them to have the tools they need to believe in themselves. They want them to have the confidence to stand up for themselves and others. They want them to seek love from within and therefore not feel pressure to do anything they don't want to do. They want them to have the conviction to set and chase after their goals. We have the power to find, mold, shape, and nourish the next generation of female leaders. This is the work that Girls Inc. is doing. And because of the generosity of others, they can continue to hire incredible role models who can teach these girls all sorts of skills, everything from self-expression to health, to technology, to creativity, to business. Things that are not taught in our traditional curriculum, but prove to be vital to a happy and thriving society. Now more than ever, there is this call to action to empower young women, and Girls Inc. is answering that call. After all, an investment in our girls is an investment in a brighter future. I just want to thank Renee for all that you and your organization are doing to have such a positive impact on the world. Thank you so much. Thank you.